Welcome to the Subway Conversation Chat. Sorry, folks. My name is Jamie Malloy, and I'm here to talk some New York Yankees and New York Mets baseball with my co-host, Joe Dalio. So without any further hesitation, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
It is going great, Jamie. How you doing?
Good. As you mentioned, spring baseball's just gotten started. The Mets are finding their way. The Yankees are struggling. I guess those torpedo bets have cooled off, and now ESPN can go back to raving about the NBA now.
Yeah, I like what you said that before, and I thought that was pretty funny. It's that at first everybody thought the torpedo bats were the bomb, right? But now it's not so much, but still, we said backstage, just pumped that it's baseball season. We're here in Western New York, so it's not exactly spring baseball, and even some other places like New York, Chicago, it's more like winter baseball. But still, a lot of great stuff going on, and we're just getting started. I mean, we're 10 games in, so lots of exciting baseball to come, and can't wait to talk about it with you here today.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway, I'm going to start off our show with the Yankees injury report. Number one, we have right-hand pitcher Jonathan Loáisiga. He is recovering from right UCL surgery. On April 12, 2024, he had internal brace surgery. But on April 5th this year, he has thrown in the AA Somerset's bullpen. Manager Aaron Boone said that Loáisiga's rehab has gone really, really well, and that his bullpen has been electric. Loáisiga hasn't thrown against any hitters yet and expect his return to be late in April or early in May. Number two, we have Giancarlo Stanton, DH. A perennial regular being injured.
I was going to say Giancarlo who?
Yeah. Ben Rice, right? Anyway, he has torn tendons in both elbows, and on March 10th, he received the third round of PRP injections in both elbows and has been feeling significantly better.
Okay.
He has been hitting off a high-velocity tragic machine and still continues to feel pain, but is now at a manageable level. Expect his return in possibly May. Third is right-hander pitcher John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. He has a right shoulder fatigue. Anyway, the past Saturday, Schmidt shined in his first minor rehab start. The 29-year-old struck out 7 batters in 3 1/3 scoreless innings. He gave just 1 hit and 1 walk while throwing 37 of 52 pitches for strikes as AA Somerset beat Hartford 6-2. Manager Aaron Boone stated that he sees Schmidt pitching one more minor league rehab start before returning to the Yankees pitching rotation on April 15th or 16th versus Kansas City. Number 4, DJ LeMahieu, or should I say DJ injured off a hitting Hugh. Infielder, he has a left calf strain. He was put on the 10-day injury list retroactive to March 24th. He told MLB.com that he is prepared for a rehab assignment. And we have a quote, "I'll go to either AA or AAA. They're both home," said LeMahieu, and the minor league Somerset Patriots in New Jersey and Scranton Wilkes-Barre Red Raiders and Rail Riders in Pennsylvania, respectively. "I feel good, but I didn't have spring training." Oh, no, that's how Rail Riders roll. So let's turn it over to Joe for some Mets news. Joe?
All right. Thanks, Jamie. Good stuff there. And, those are guys that you want to see play, right? We always kind of, unfortunately joke about Stanton, on this, but, he's an exciting player and somebody that you want to see play. So hopefully he'll be back. You said something about mid-May. That would be great if we could do that, if we could see him there. Same with LeMahieu. No major transactions for the Mets, just a few minor league contracts. But as far as a couple of injury updates, earlier this week, Frankie Montas started a throwing program, which is a step in the right direction, although he's still probably a couple of months away from, pitching with the Mets. And, they picked him up during the winter. A bunch of news updates from today, actually, talking about Jeff McNeil. He's in Florida on a rehab assignment, and he's aiming for an end of April return, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. So it would be nice to have him, especially the way some of those infielders are hitting, which I'll share later in the show. Francisco Alvarez will begin a rehab assignment tomorrow. Not exactly sure where that is, but, whether it is like single A, which I believe it is. I don't think he's going higher than that at this point, but still that's progress. And hopefully he can be back by, late April as well. Now the Mets are having some issues at catcher because with Alvarez gone, Luis Torrens was, catching most of the games here, but he's been out for the last couple of games due to a forearm injury. Now he's not on the IL. He's listed as day-to-day, so hopefully he can get back as soon as possible. They have a guy named Hayden Sanger holding down the fort right now. Not really hitting too well. He's only 182 current average, though he had 2 hits and scored 2 runs today. So, if he can at least do something, before Torrens and ultimately Alvarez gets back, that would be great. So that's basically it as far as transactions and injury news. So why don't we send it right back to you for more Yankees news?
Sure. So anyway, this begs the question, as a Yankee fan, why is Trent Grisham taking advantage of a larger role with the Yankees?
Mm-hmm.
Trent Grisham knows his role with the Bronx Bombers. The can do it all attitude from Grisham understands his role is being ready every day, whether that's starting or riding the pine.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this, he's starting to be playing in the lineup more than last year. On Saturday, Grisham hit 2 home runs and drove in 4 runs, helping the Yankees defeat the Pittsburgh Pirates 10-4, much to the delight or to the dismay of our producer, Adam. But anyway. Anyway, we have a quote here. This lineup just seems really tough on opposing guys when you have 1 through 9 that can hang a really good bat on you, said Grisham. Additionally, Andy Volpe hit a 3-run double as the Bombers notched their 6th win in 8 games. The Yankees have hit 25 home runs, becoming the fastest team to reach that in only 8 games. We have a quote here from manager Aaron Boone. It's been relentless. They've really been taking tough at-bats, Yankees manager Aaron Boone said. For the most part, we're scoring a lot, and a lot of guys are swinging the bat well.
And it's not just because of the torpedo bats.
Right? What?
It's not just because of the torpedo bats.
Right. You're going to have nights where you get shut down a little bit, but I feel like there's been a real consistency in that approach.
Mm-hmm.
This marked Grisham's 3rd multi-home run game in his short career. Another quote from Grisham. It was a learning experience last year. I never done that before, Grisham said. I knew what I was getting into coming into this season, so I was in a good place mentally about it. I just tried to learn as much as I could. I treated every day like I was starting, but just starting later. I do all my prep that I do starting in the 5th inning as opposed to an hour before a game. So, Joe, what do you think of Grisham being the ultimate cheerleader, but also a useful player when penciled in the lineup? And he's been, as I said, this year they've been using him more.
Yeah, you talked about him, sometimes playing, sometimes riding the pine. But I think if he keeps playing the way he's playing, he's not going to be riding the pine for much time here. Now, I actually watched that game on Saturday. I had a few pennies on the game. I had the Yankees in that game. So they won me a little bit. But I did watch that game and saw the 2 home runs that he hit. And, the Yankees were just on that day. And just the Pirates actually got back in that game and maybe even went ahead at one point, but the Yankees just ran away with it. So, and it's funny because on the broadcast, they were they were comparing him to Reggie Jackson. I guess the hairstyle, the way he looked, they showed, I don't know if you saw the game that day, but they showed a side-by-side picture like when Reggie Jackson hit the home runs in the 77 World Series, and kind of the same hairdo a little bit. And obviously this guy hitting 2 home runs in a game, I think those Reggie comparisons would be a little fair in that case. But it's nice to watch a player, an unheralded player really like this, kind of grow in front of our eyes. And again, he's, it's a great attitude that he's willing to do whatever it takes to help the team. But I'm telling you, he's going to get more opportunities if he keeps contributing the way he is.
Wait, sorry, Joe.
No, it says, what does he have? About 4 or 5 home runs at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, speaking of Reggie Jackson, Trent Grisham and hair and facial policy, I will actually get to some news about that policy later in this thing. So stay tuned for that, Joe. All right.
All right.
So anyway, but right now, speaking of the Yankees getting hitting home runs, when are they not breaking records involving home runs, right?
Right.
That's a rhetorical question. And guess what? One can wish it's still the torpedo bats, but in reality, the Yankees have really been just good at this home run thing pretty much forever. Sort of like how the Eagles are just really, really good at the tush push that half the league wanted banned and then they tabled it. But different sport for another day, but safe comparisons. Let's ban home runs because the Yankees are so good at it.
Yeah, right. And half these home runs, and with Grisham on the weekend, these weren't pop-ups to the Yankee Stadium right field porch. I mean, these were in Pittsburgh. So, they're not just hitting all these home runs in Yankee Stadium.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, the Yankees' 25 home runs in 8 games is not only the fastest in league history, but it beats the next closest team by 2 home runs. The 2000 St. Louis Cardinals hit 23 home runs, and that record held until this year. And as Michael Kay would say, see ya, that record is gone. Before Saturday's actions, the team with the second most home runs this year is the reigning world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. They have 19, but they did it in 9 games. And the Chicago Cubs have played in 10 games, but are third with 14. While the Yankees were sad to lose Juan Soto, the team was able to spread the money around to the rest of the roster, and that has helped so far with a 6-2 record after 8 games. Now 6-5, but anyway. So Joe, why are the New York Yankees so good at this hitting home runs?
Just the guys that they have. And you could have home run hitters that aren't smart at the plate, that make bad decisions when they're batting. And the Yankees are not doing that. I mean, not only are these guys, solid hitters, but they're making good decisions at the plate, and they're waiting for the right pitches. They're, taking smart at bats. And I think that has a lot to do with it, and again, this is April. Again, it's not like these are pop-ups in July at Yankee Stadium. I mean, it was warm, and that one day where they hit 1,000 home runs in that one game, it was a warm day there, but still, again, they're just making smart decisions at the plate, and great pitch selection, and just doing the right things. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, obviously, good, solid hitters and guys that are capable of hitting home runs, but I think just good at bats too has a lot to do with it as well.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, why, Joe? Here's a kind of a weird joke. Why did the judge meet the babe?
Why did the judge meet the babe? All right. I know this is baseball related, but go ahead.
Okay. Aaron Judge's hot start to 2025 earned him a seat next to the great Bambino. In Friday's game against the Pittsburgh Pirates, Judge stepped up with a home run, or with a runner on first base in the top of the 7th inning. Pirates reliever Tim Miza threw him a 94-mile-per-hour sinker right down the middle, and Papawi, home history. The home run gave the Yanks a 9-1 lead, but it also marked Aaron Judge's 321st career home runs in 1,000 games, matching the Babe's total in his 1,000 games. Joe, if Babe Ruth is the great Bambino, should we start calling Aaron Judge the great Gavel?
Yeah, why not? I'm trying, as you're speaking here, I'm trying to think of a great something, and I'm blanking right now. I'd have to spend some time thinking about it. But, it's a fair comparison. I mean, again, he's off to a great start. How many home runs does he have so far this year now, Judge? Do you know? Do you happen to know how many home runs he's got at this point? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. But while you're checking that, I'll just say that, again, you're comparing him to Babe Ruth, which is a huge comparison.
He's got 6
home runs after how many games? Like 11?
Yeah, and he's batting .341.
Yeah, definitely off to a great start and just making history. And again, we'll see. He's got plenty of years ahead of him still, too. So he may be making a lot more. He will be, I believe, making a lot more history as time goes on.
Yep. Anyway, okay. The New York Yankees stood and rise for a moment of silence at the start of the opening game, and I think you know what this is going to lead into, Joe. Like, we got to get a little more serious because this is a very sad story to such a classy individual like Brett Gardner here. So anyway, Brett Gardner, as Yankee fans know, enjoyed a very successful 14-year career with the New York Yankees from 2008 to 2021. He was back in the news this year after the tragic passing of his youngest son, Miller Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
The 14-year-old passed away on March 21st while on a family vacation in Costa Rica. The cause of death was carbon monoxide poisoning that he suffered while at a hotel. And they said it may have been from, there was a printing or like a machine next to the room that was puffing off gas and everything. But it's even hard to say with that because carbon monoxide, it's sightless and it's tasteless, but it can, deadly.
Right. You don't know until it's too late sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But get this, though. Gardner's hemoglobin saturation was 64%, way above the lethal level of 50%. Well, there you go. It wasn't asphyxiation or food poisoning, but this is still very rare and sad to hear. Our thoughts and prayers, all of us at Driving in the Top Productions are with the Gardner family, and we respect their wishes for privacy at this time. So, Joe, this shows death doesn't discriminate even to someone as famous as Brett Gardner's son. His
it's sad no matter what the situation is, but especially with a 14-year-old kid in a totally freak situation like this. Right. You take a family vacation. That's not what you expect, the outcome to be. So, that to me makes it even more difficult to understand and more difficult to take. So, and again, Brett Gardner, such a class guy and, a great player for the Yankees. And, it's even if he was a jerk, it's still a horribly sad situation. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with them. As far as dealing with this, and it's going to take a long time, to get through it. But again, prayers for the best.
Yeah. Anyway, Joe, here do we go. Why did the Yankees finally reverse their no beard, clean shave policy? That was the policy I was telling you about when you said about Trent Grisham looking like Reggie Jackson. Although Reggie Jackson was 4 years after that policy was implemented. So, but anyway, And I think a lot of people think this was actually a good thing that the Yankees did now. And I'll tell you why. So the Yankees back on February 21st, Yankees owner Hal Steinbrenner reversed a decade-old policy set by his late father, George the Boss Steinbrenner. The Yankees will now be able, or have been able now, to don beards as long as they're well groomed after years of new free agents having to totally shave off their beards before playing in the Bronx. Players like Devin Williams no longer have to fully shave when playing for the Yankees. The younger Steinbrenner felt it was time to finally reverse that policy to basically, be more sensitive to the younger generation now, like that the world is today. And he also believes getting rid of the old policy won't actually scare away free agents or really good prospects that they have because they weren't allowed to have a beard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what people didn't think about these past few years. But we have a quote from Mr. Hal Steinbrenner here. He said, "I did make the decision that the policy that was in place was outdated," Steinbrenner told reporters in Tampa before his team's spring training opener. And given how important it is to that generation and given that is the norm in this world today, that was somewhat unreasonable. So I made the change. This actually makes sense because back in the day, the older Steinbrenner could get away with that because the Yankees weren't winning and they needed a culture change.
Mm-hmm.
And they felt like there wasn't any discipline there. So he actually did it because he wanted the Yankees to have more discipline and take time, to clean themselves up a little bit and be fully shaved. Right. But see, back then you could do that because that was back when players were well disciplined enough to do that. Like now you can't really police that anymore, although that'll be all over social media. It's like you got to have them wear beards. So anyway, the Yankees needed a culture change because they hadn't won a World Series since 1962, and he wanted the players to be disciplined and take care of themselves. Nowadays, players, like I said, are pampered more and feel like they should be able to sport beards. So it's the new Steinbrenner trying to get the Yankees to another dynasty again while being forward thinking. Kind of like his father was forward thinking back in the day, though.
Yeah, I like
it. Forward thinking policy back in the day, but now this is a forward thinking policy. So, Joe, what do you think of the younger Steinbrenner winning an age-old policy from his old man? I get like his father wouldn't be too happy with that, but I guess he would understand why he had to do it because of the way players are now.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I mean, again, just how modern day players, you got to treat them differently because they are more entitled. They are more pampered, like you said. It's just a fact of life. And I like the fact that Steinbrenner Jr. here is keeping up with the times. And I read something about that too when it happened. And he said neatly trimmed. He still doesn't want it crazy. Like we're no Charlie Blackmon's here.
Or Johnny Damon when he was on the Red Sox.
Right. Or, what's his name? Marsh, on the Phillies, nothing like that, so they're neatly trimmed, I think is what I read. And again, I think it's a smart move. And I don't think if I'm a player and I have a chance to go to the Yankees, and that means I have to shave my beard. I mean, come on, what's more important, my beard or my opportunity to play with the Yankees? So I'm not so sure it cost them free agents. But again, I like the owner just showing not only the current players, but any potential players that, hey, we're with the times now. We're taking your considerations, your needs into consideration. And I think that's a more positive message with that. Within the means of, hey, we're still going to keep it respectable and not go crazy. And I think the players, will respect that. So I like it.
Yeah, and it was perfect timing, especially after coming off a World Series loss to the Dodgers, where they feel like the team's destined to make another dynasty run. So we figured, let's make the change now.
Sure.
So anyway, speaking of keeping up with the times, is Ben Rice potentially the next homegrown Yankee superstar that's I think been hiding in the closet though, and might be a diamond in the rough type of superstar? Anyway, after a monster spring training, Ben Rice has carried that over to the regular season. According to Judge or Aaron Boone, he's really been killing the ball. His hitting power is already level and even above Aaron Judge as a second-year guy, if you can actually believe that. In the Bombers' 10-4 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates, Rice hit a couple towering singles and flyouts that reached over 100 miles an hour, and that was actually higher than Judge's 99.9 miles an hour exit velocity. And we have a quote here by Aaron Boone. He's killing the ball, manager. Aaron Boone said before Rice went 1 for 5, scalding 104.4 mile per hour single and 102.9 mile an hour flyout in the 10-4 win over the Pirates at PNC Park. Just at bat quality and how hard he's hitting the ball consistently has stood out. So, Joe, what do you think of Ben Rice? Like, even when he's hitting singles or hitting home runs or even driving the ball out for an out, that he's hitting that ball with a lot of power in his second year, especially we mentioned he put that weight on, and I think that's helped. But what do you think of some of his bats on Saturday having a higher exit velocity than Aaron Judge on the team? And Aaron Judge is like the home run king, but what do you think of Ben Rice already getting to that level in his second year?
Yeah, I like it. And I think, if he was getting cheap hits, then I think you'd have to take Rice with a grain, but the fact that he's hitting the ball that hard shows that he's for real. And I think he's just going to keep getting better, and he's going to keep growing, and he's just going to fit perfectly. He is already fitting perfectly into the solid Yankee lineup. So I think, the team's obviously encouraged and fans are encouraged. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, and especially like as the Paul Skeens and these young flamethrowers keep coming into the league, you need young power hitters like that too.
Right. And, you're hitting the ball that hard, even when you do get into slumps, guys hit the ball that hard, it's much easier to get out of slumps. So,
I mean, but what do you think of the time now, Joe? We're in an era where like, not just the 10-year veterans like the Bryce Harpers or the Pete Alonsos are hitting the ball that hard, but these young guys are coming in and doing it too already, that like they're already doing it now. Then like even A-Rod, he hit the ball that hard, but remember he was a veteran and we got him in a trade. He wasn't a homegrown prospect, but what do you think that even these homegrown prospects can hit the ball as hard as the veteran guys can?
Well, what I think is we might start seeing these guys come up earlier and hitting the ball this hard earlier, like Rice, because I think Major League scouts are looking for these hitters now and finding them earlier. So they're looking for that in particular, exit velocity and things like that. And I think that's, they might pay attention. Maybe in the past they paid attention to good mechanics or to, I don't know, the ability to hit line drives or something like that. Whereas now when they're scouting these players, they're looking specifically for these exit velocity guys. So I think they're already going to be developed there, guys like this when they get to the major leagues. So I think that's got a lot to do with the early development and early stats, early success of these kind of statistics here.
And they're being taught that in the minors. But the good thing about it too is they're not just learning how to hit the home run ball. They're mixing in line drives and small ball with exit velocity, which is good.
I think that's smart. Yes.
Yeah, because remember we talked about how Kenny Lofton and he was upset about how these young batters now are talking about how like Ben Rice that are having 100-mile-an-hour exit velocities, when he said back in my day it was about switch hitting, and he was upset about it going to the home run ball. But remember we talked about that. But
Yes.
But I mean, if you can balance it out, it's still good too.
Yeah, and I think baseball's done a good job of bringing things back towards that balance in the last couple of years. Trying to bring back the smaller ball and the base stealing and stuff like that. So it's weird. The other day I saw it twice in a game. I don't remember what game I was watching, but they did this thing called a bunt. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Jamie. But like bunting the ball and sacrificing, kind of crazy, right? The things that were part of baseball.
Hey, you guess what I also think it is too? I'm also superstitious. It's not just the torpedo bats, but guess what? They're not using Louisville Sluggers as the official sponsor, because those were more for home run bats, like I said. But these bats that like they have now they're more like aluminum bats, but they're made out of like, more durable wood than the Louisville Slugger ones.
Okay.
So I think that's what's helping with the bunting too. So anyway, let's turn it back over to you, Joe, for some more Mets updates. Joe.
All right. Well, it's been a very good week with the Mets here. Before today, now a little tricky. Usually on Tuesdays, we did our shows Wednesdays last year, and it was tough sometimes because they'd play these Wednesday matinees and I'd have to scramble to get stats together. So I thought, now that we're doing this show on Tuesday, the teams don't play day games on Tuesdays, except for some reason the Mets played a 4:00 game today. So, but I did scramble to get some stuff together to add to that. And they were a lot of what I'm going to share is kind of where they were before, and then throwing in some stats today. Now they were 5-0 before today, and of course, won 10-5 today. So a 6-0 week since we last spoke. Now before today, they outscored their opponents 18-8. So low scoring games here. Again, that's basically, 3.5 to not even 2 runs a game they're giving up. Now, 28-13 if you count today's game, which it kind of skews the stats a little bit because they scored 10 today. So again, not scoring a lot besides outbursts like this and another one they had against the Marlins last week. But pitching was supposed to be the concern with this team. And now almost everybody is pitching amazing here. And I'll share some of those stats in a second. But pitching was going to be the reason the Mets didn't win. And right now, it's the reason that they are winning. Now, Pete Alonso, before today, had 2 home runs. This week anyway, had 2 home runs, 7 RBIs for the week. But he had 4 RBIs today. So 11 now. Had a 1468 OPS before today's game. That probably, went up after today. Now, Francisco Lindor only had 1 RBI this week before today's game, but he did hit a solo home run today, which was his first home run of the year. But even just with minor, RBIs and home run stats, he was still hitting a 955 OPS. So getting hits, getting on base, some extra base hits there. Other players, Juan Soto, a couple RBIs this week, 855 OPS. So nothing spectacular, but again, the spectacular weeks will certainly come. One unexpected one, Jesse Winker is just kind of quietly doing his thing. Now, weird to say because he's a little, wild sometimes and definitely gets noticed on the field when he plays. But he had 3 RBIs this week and an 884 OPS. So solid, pretty quiet performance from him. So he's doing well. Now, some red flags here. And again, I've said this before, everybody wants to see Brett Beatty do well. Again, he's off to a horrible start. Hopefully we're not waving the white flag soon and he turns it around. And I know I keep saying this. I mean, before today's game, he was 1 for 11 with an 091 batting average, which is what that averages out to. He went 1 for 3 today, but there's a struggle there, and I don't know how much longer they're going to wait. You know, we were talking about Jeff McNeil, and hopefully he can get back soon, because that part of the infield is struggling. Even Luis Angel Acuna didn't have any hits before today this week. He was 0 for 7 this week. He went 1 for 2 today. So what's that? 1 for 9, which is still just over 100 batting average. So hopefully the Mets can get more production in middle infield before McNeil comes back. And it's going to take him a little while to get going. So they're going to need some of these guys to wake up. And, you know, Vientos even, I didn't put his stats down, but he's struggling a little bit to start. Not as bad as those guys, but hopefully he'll get things going as well. Now, again, talking about pitching, and the Mets are just getting good pitching, whether it's starting pitching, whether it's relief pitching. Here's some examples. Now, Tyler McGill, probably the best of the bunch this week. He pitched one game. He went 5 1/3, didn't give up a run, only 2 hits. That's a .94 whip based on the hits and walks he gave up. And the team only hit 111 against him. So that's some great pitching. Some guy named Kodai Senga, you may remember him. He pitched 5 solid innings this week, did not give up an earned runs, gave up 5 hits there. Now, Griffin Canning, a new pitcher that they got, David Peterson, who's been with them, Clay Holmes, another pitcher. Now, Holmes started today and had a mediocre start, but his other start this week went like 4 plus. So the only bad thing with those 3 guys I just mentioned is neither one made it to 5 innings. So we'd like to get the numbers totals up, but it's early, and hopefully once the season gets going, once it warms up a little bit, once they warm up, they can maybe get a few more innings in there. Now, the relief pitching as well. My favorite pitcher on the staff, Jose Butto, pitched over 5 1/3 this week, gave up 1 earned run, only 4 hits, and got a win. So more solid pitching from him. Reed Garrett, another solid one, 3 innings, no earned runs, only 2 hits, no walks. So that's a .67 whip. They hit under 200 against him. Max Kranick, a new pitcher that they pitched up, he pitched 3 1/3 innings this week, only gave up 1 hit and a .33 whip in there. And he got a win as well. And Oscar Brozaban, who's been pitching lights out, he pitched another 3 innings this week, only 1 hit in those 3 innings, a .33 whip. Now, he did give up a 2-run homer in today's game. So hopefully that's just, one little mistake there, and he continues to pitch as he's been pitching. So as I said, that was supposed to be the danger zone for the Mets, especially the starting pitching. And yes, they're not getting innings in yet, but I think that'll change, and hopefully the consistency that we're seeing will continue. So again, a 6-0 week for the Mets. Can't ask for more than that. Now, coming up, again, it was against, subpar competition. Now, maybe not so much the Blue Jays, because again, we both expected the Blue Jays to be playoff teams this year, and I still think they will be. Especially now, talk about some big baseball news with the Jays signing Vlad Guerrero long term, like 14 years. So I think that's going to add to the potential for the Blue Jays to do well. So I can't really knock them, although again, the Mets playing at home. You would expect 2 out of 3 against them, and they ended up sweeping them. Now, obviously, the Marlins, one of the worst teams in the National. I think the Marlins are the worst team in the National League, even worse than the Rockies. So, they lost to them in Florida, but sweeping them here, or at least 2 games, and then they got 1 more against them tomorrow afternoon. So there's our Wednesday matinee. That's a 1:00 game tomorrow. Now, coming up this week, 6 more winnable games, in my opinion. So they're playing 3. This is starting Friday. They're going to play against the Sacra Vegas A's, and 3 games out there in the minor league park. And Then you got 3 against the Minnesota Twins. Now, I picked the Twins to win the Central Division. I still think they will, but there's no reason the Mets can't take 2 out of 3 there. So ideally, a 4-2 road trip would be considered a very successful road trip. At worst, 3-3. If they do worse than that, then I think, that's a disappointment. But I think they can take at least 2 out of 3 against Sacra-Vegas. I think they could take 2 out of 3 in Minnesota, even though that's not an easy place to win. So we shall see. But definitely encouraging start for the Mets here, and hopefully they can continue.
Yeah, but Joe, like we said, the Marlins may be the worst team in the division, but they're going to be interesting to keep an eye on all year. Though, remember when they got a lot of those young prospects now that are playing now that they traded for last year from the Yankees when they dealt Chisholm to the Yankees.
Yeah, a few teams do. I mean, a team that I'm intrigued by in the Mets division is actually the Washington Nationals. I've watched them play a couple of times. They beat the Dodgers last night, and they were winning 5-0 before we went on here. I don't know what the score is now. And again, with their bullpen and the Dodgers hitting, I would not be surprised if I looked and it's 8-6 Dodgers now or something. But that's a team that intrigues me because they had some prospects that are now playing with them, and they played with a lot of
who I saw
enthusiasm. Yeah, you got to see some of them, and in your backyard there. So they're a team that I think maybe the Marlins will be in a year or two. I don't think they're ready for it yet. I might be wrong, and you're right. They do have some of those prospects that may start, peaking a little earlier and cherishing this major league experience. I think it's going to take a year or two for them to get competitive. But to me, Washington is that, fast forward for the Marlins maybe a couple of years. And I think the Nationals might be better than people think this year. I mean, I don't think they'll be close to playoffs or anything like that, but maybe close to 500. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But
that's a good sign. They're keeping up with the Dodgers, especially there's a huge payroll difference between those two. The Dodgers basically bought everybody, and the Nationals are trying to grow their team domestically with young guys.
Yeah, they're doing it the right way. I mean, not to say the Dodgers are doing it the wrong way because they're succeeding. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, I would not be surprised if they win 120 games this year. But they're not going to win the World Series, but they'll win 120 games. So again, there's no easy competition. Even again, I said the Marlins, I think, are the worst team in the National League. Still, they're not going to roll over and just let teams beat them. And especially with the young kids trying to make a difference, and they're going to try and they're going to play hard. So it's still not going to be an easy win, but still, when you look at it, the Mets compared to the Marlins, these are games you got to win as much as possible. So the fact that they've, won the first 2 games of this series, they won a couple there, they're doing that. And same with the A's. The A's are still a developing team, but the Mets should take 2 out of 3 there. So
but what helps the A's now is, like I said, they're not in Oakland anymore. And the minute they got to their first year in Sacramento, they actually spent more than they ever did in Oakland these past few years. Like I said, I think they've got the highest payroll since moving to Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, they signed Luis Severino to a pretty good contract. I don't think that would have happened if they were still in Oakland. But.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with you on that. And that's, you want to see teams do that. I mean, obviously, they're already at a disadvantage because they don't have, the Dodgers money, the Yankees money, the Mets money, that kind of thing.
The minute they get to Vegas, they could, though. You never know, because Vegas is a blooming sport, so they could have a lot when they get there, though.
Mm-hmm. If they do things right and they get the right people in there and they, make that commitment, then sure, I completely agree with that. Again, they're another team. They're not easy. It's not going to be, all right, let's just walk into Sacramento and steal 3 wins here. I mean, they're scrappy and again, they're playing hard, and jobs are, guys are trying to make the team and make a difference, and they're going to play every team tough there. And, you'll see that they're going to lose a lot more games than they win, but not for a lack of trying. That's for sure.
And see, Joe, you know why? If you think about it, like you said, they may have to go to a salary cap, but guess what? You're actually starting to see teams running it. They're running it like a salary cap, even with the luxury tax system. Like we mentioned, the Nationals are doing it. They're running it like it's a salary cap. The Pirates are running it that way. The Marlins, the White Sox. What do you say? The Nationals. Who else is doing it that way? The A's, I think, are trying to do it that way still, but they're mixing in veterans now. So, like I said, because of the way it's showing that even with ballooning salaries getting out of control with the luxury tax system, teams are saying, I think teams are building young as like a protest, saying, hey, look, we can build a young core of players without having to pay a guy 800 or 700 million to do it. But the Dodgers are still doing it the old school way. And the Yankees, I think, are doing it of a combination of paying big guys and prospects. So you're seeing a lot of diverse ways these clubs are building their teams, even with the luxury tax system now.
Right. And you might know this. I think it works this way. Now, when a team has to pay to the luxury tax,
you're allowed. You could go over the salary cap. If you don't pay it, you can't do it.
Right. Does that tax go like pool to other teams? Does it go in like a revenue sharing kind of thing?
No, but that's what they're arguing for. They want to keep the luxury tax, but they want to have a revenue sharing thing where they can collect the money and give it to the lower teams that need to spend. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be against it. I don't like the tax. Again, I think
without totally having to go to a salary cap, this would actually be the most efficient way to do it.
Right. And then I'd be okay with that way, as long as that. I thought maybe it already got distributed now, but you said they're fighting for it.
The NBA does it that way. They have a luxury tax system, but they also have a soft salary cap where I think that money still goes to the Pistons or the teams that are trying to build through the draft to spend.
Okay, and maybe that's where I saw it, but. I think it would be a great idea for Major League Baseball. Like I said, I would love a salary cap, but if they're not going to, and you're going to have this luxury tax, which is basically like you and me paying a dime, it doesn't affect these teams at all. Yeah. But at least that money would go to like a competitive share and maybe make things a little bit more competitive and take away some of the disadvantage to some of these less financially able teams.
That's what I'm saying, because the NBA has been doing it like that for a long time.
Right. So, okay.
And, so anyway, Joe, I have guess what? It's time in our show for a question of the week. So would you like to give it a try?
Yeah, I better wake up here. I haven't got one of these yet.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so Joe, here's your question. Can you guess this MLB player? One of the choices you're going to like, actually. I'm not going to say who it is, but I can tell you he's on the Mets.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, this anonymous player who shall not be named until you answered on the New York Mets, he's hit the most home runs in the National League since 2019. Is it Cody Bellinger, yours truly, Joe, your favorite, Pete Alonso, Kyle Schwarber, or Manny Machado?
Most home runs in the National League since 19. Who was the first person you said?
Cody Bellinger.
Cody Bellinger. Well, not out of bias, but now I don't. You might be having me fall into a trap here, and I'm not going by bias. But I honestly do think it's Pete Alonso.
You got it. It was Pete Alonso. And the answer from MLBstats.com, he's had 53 home runs in the last 6 years since 2019.
Okay.
Power Pete.
Is it
Anyway,
53 or 153?
No, 53. Anyway, well, it looks like we come to the end of our show. So, Joe, where can we find you in this social media world on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025? And I can't believe it's already the second Tuesday of April.
Right, second Tuesday of April. Although here in Buffalo, it feels like the second Tuesday of February.
As in suburban Rochester, Webster, New York here.
As in, yeah, you're going through the same thing. It's like April is always like that here. I look at the weather map and it's beautiful spring everywhere else in the world, and in this little armpit, it's still freezing cold. So anyway,
that's why New York State sports high school teams and college teams. That's why we have turf fields here. Remember Florida and them? They all did it because they're great programs, but we have to do it here, because our weather's bad. We got to have turf fields because they're more climate friendly than grass fields.
Yes, but I'm going to save my weather sarcasm for later. I am on the Twitterverse or Xverse, whatever you want to call it, Joe Dell Sports there. Just sharing some statistical information or newsworthy information about baseball and some of the other big sports going on these days as well. So that's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me, yours truly, at Bill's Chat 1, at Bill's Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dog Tags on X. And then you can also find me at theforkball.com and stadiumrant.com, where I write about all sports. For more, thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that like button, ring the bell for notifications. And for more content on Driving to the Top production, like this show, and our open mic show, which we're going to be recording very, very soon, as soon as I get off of this show, and other content on Driving to the Top Productions, you can visit our YouTube page, Twitch stream, Facebook stream, X stream, wherever you get your podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and we look forward to you tuning back with us next Tuesday, 8 o'clock p.m. on the Subway Conversation Chat. Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to the Subway Conversation Chat with Jamie and Joe. Have a good night, folks.
Have an excellent week.